Hi there, Erin here. Today's scrapbook layout is great for documenting travel and capturing the details, those little photos that really help tell the whole story. Great scrapbook pages begin with great photos, and sometimes that means being a little bit more mindful while you're traveling. I've got some helpful tips for you to capture those photos as well as how to scrapbook them afterwards. So let's go ahead and jump into today's project. The travel adventure I am documenting today was a trip to San Diego. We spent a week down there. These are the creative design team ladies. We get together every year. And this was a beautiful day out on the ocean, and we were tide pooling. So that was one of Katie's top picks for activities while we were there. And it's one of my favorite things to do while visiting the beach. So I'm all for it. So, my first tip while for documenting vacation is to capture the detail shots, right? So, really, we're pretty good about taking photos. This is a group photo of all of us with the ocean in the background. I think it's pretty natural to stand in front of points of interest and snap those photos, right? But when we get home, you want to know and remember the entire story. So that is often best captured in the details. Now, for this particular adventure, the details were in the tide pools. So I have small little photos. These are 2.5 inch squared of tide pool life. So there is a little crab, and then we have a shot of a seagull. Katie took this one, and then we have a shell. I think Julie took this particular photo, and then the anemone. There were lots of anemone pictures, so I just picked my favorite, and I'm not sure. I think I might have taken this one, but it could have been Jama's. So that's another tip. When you are traveling with people, I highly recommend you start a shared photo. We all have iPhones except Katie. She's our only Android user, but we have a shared album, and everybody at the end of each day drops their photos into the album, and that's the easiest way to do it. So, detail shots here are going to go in a column on the side, and they don't need to be huge. Imagine if all of these photos were big, like 4 by 6 photos. There's no way I would be able to fit them all onto the layout. So, what I love doing is printing my own and printing varied sizes to give you more flexibility and design options on your layout. So I think my layout's going to go something like this. I do have additional 3 by 4s. There's more coming in. This Julie made the CDT for the creative design team out of seaweed in the sand. So that's another thing. Take pictures of signs. If you're maybe going on a hike, you'll hear me say this often when I'm documenting hiking photos. Find some way to capture the name of the hike by taking a picture of the sign. It will help you remember those details when you go to scrapbook it, but it's also fun to add to your layout. Now, you'll notice on this one, I've made the most of this open real estate on my photo by adding my journaling. I've done that in Canva, and I will show you how to do that later in the video, so stay tuned for that. Now, we have our layout design here. We need paper, right? I will be using papers from Kintsugi Inspirations, and this is Kintsugi is the art of repairing Japanese pottery with lacquer dusted with gold paint. So actually, I have die cut several. There's a coordinating stamp here, and the dies cut out one of the back sides of the pattern paper. So I'll show you that. Here's a couple different examples of the pottery. I die cut a whole bunch of these to use as embellishments, not on this particular layout because they don't go with my beach photos, but I just wanted to show you what these look like here. They're very pretty. And then I die cut the flowers too. So I will probably be using those on a trip to a Japanese garden. I think this would be very pretty for that. So you can see all this gold foiling on the paper. So I'll show you these really quick, and you can see the beautiful blues and peach are already have you thinking kind of beachy tones, right? So I might use some of these peachy tones on my layout, but what really drew me, I'll show you those in just a second. Isn't that pretty? These papers right here, I immediately saw ocean when I look at this one here. It just looks like the ocean waves. And this one too reminds me of netting. They have a very nautical feel to them. So I'm going to be using those for sure. And this is the opposite side of that one. So we have the gold foiling on that. And then this is the other one. I only have one of these because that's the one I dedicated to die cutting all of those out for embellishments. You can make them with the stamps as well, but I just thought it would be fun to use the pattern paper. I will also be pulling in paper from the Country Woods wood grain paper. This is going to coordinate beautifully and it's very beachy. I've done several beach and ocean inspired layouts with this. And then the greenish tone in here actually brings the green in of Chelsea's shirt. See how that worked out so well? So let me scoot my photos aside here and we can start building up our paper layers. Now, since this is really about travel tips and documenting your travel memories, I have already created I've kind of figured out what I want to put where. So we didn't have to spend time kind of focusing on that in the video. So I showed you my photo placement and I'm thinking I want this as my background, really just kind of bringing in that ocean feel. And then this one I think is going to go across the center. Now the reason I put down white paper is because I want to kind of patchwork this together to save what's hidden and not waste any of this paper, but you could use this as your base. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these down. I was able to save quite a bit of that blue wavy background paper, which makes me very happy. I know that will come in handy for future projects. So I'm going to just dry fit everything, making sure it's all good and none of that white paper will be showing. I did cut my pieces a little bit wider than I needed. That gives me wiggle room so I can ensure none of that white background is peeking through. And then I've cut strips, similar strips for the opposite side. They're not identical. The color patterns repeat, but the strips are different dimensions. And we'll overlap just a bit here. Now I am going to use basic gray. That is the color you see here in this pattern paper. And I'm going to ink up all of the edges. I won't make you watch everything. We'll just do a little bit here. Those of you with keen observation skills may have picked up that this peach wood grain paper, the wood grain is running vertical, and the piece on the left-hand side, the wood grain is running horizontal. I did notice that myself, and I went through my Country Woods wood grain pack, and I did not have a big enough piece to make it work either way, so I can live with it. Some of you can't, I understand, but by the time I get all the embellishments and everything on here, I don't think that is going to be, what's drawing your eye. When possible, I do try to make sure my patterns and textures and things like that are running in the same direction across my layout. This one is just not, noticeable enough to warrant me changing my mind and using something else. I will finish this bit up off camera, getting everything adhered down, and now we can bring in the photos. So I mounted these all together on a piece of white cardstock, and then we've got our center photos here, and then our strips of our 3x4 photos on this side. So I do want to show you an alternative design idea for this layout. Let's say you did a great job capturing the details and have more photos. You could do 2 rows of these little photos for a total of 8 pictures over there. But if not, of course, you can stick with the original design here and do 3 3x4s. Using a tag die from my stash, I cut 3 tags and I'm going to create a little background interest for my title up here. For my title, I did turn to my Cricut. I chose print and cut to create this because those are some pretty tiny letters down at the bottom. It says adventure, explore more, worry less. And I will leave the Cricut item code in the description box below if you want to find this exact image here. And I think that looks pretty good. I have the Notes and Totes bundle. This thing is so cute. So this is a stamp set, and then there's a whole bunch of dies on here that you can do all sorts of different looks with. And I shared this on Pinterest, or I mean Instagram and Facebook a while back. And these are several cards I created. Now this was inspired by artwork in the catalog, and I just had a lot of fun making up a bunch of these tote bags. So you can see there's the die cut shells and the sea star. You can make a water bottle. There's a little scarf here, like a purse scarf or a bottle of sunscreen, little sunglasses in the shape of a heart. It is adorable. There's like a lotion or sunscreen pump. awesome. I made the water bottle black and white on this one. You can see the wood grain. There's a little texture stamp that makes a sand effect on the bottom here. Here I use the wood grain and a wave embossing folder. So many cute things that you can do with this. And the picket fence is just awesome. So this is what cuts the picket fence. And then this makes the tote bag. And I want to show you, I use them, just on a flat on a card. They still have some dimension, but you can actually make these a dimensional item. You cut out two and it glue them together and it makes an actual little tote bag that you can put little chocolates in or chapstick, any little thing that would fit in there. It is adorable. In fact, one of my crafty friends just used this to with Christmas paper, and it's going to do little Christmas favors, and it was adorable. So I'm thinking of making a little beach bag for my layout and maybe even the picket fence. So I'm going to die cut this from the woven textures paper. These papers are also great for beachy layouts. I've got a scrap in here, so I think I'll use that one. It's got burlap on one side. I'm basically going to mimic what you see in this one here. I want to create a beach bag like that. I think it'll go well with this layout. And then I'm going to use the wood grain paper to cut the little wooden fence. So I'll go ahead and die cut some of those and I'll be right back. I'm going to just scooch this up a bit to give me a little more room to work. I've got pecan pie ink, and then there's my little tote. I've already got all the score lines folded. Now, to add more interest and make these stand out, I'm adding some inking to darken the edges as well as the fold lines. So you definitely want to do this before you adhere it down. And I'm just making it look kind of a little bit weathered, a little aged, and you could skip this part, but I do think it adds a lovely little detail. And you probably can't see it, but there's some faux stitching lines around this bag. It's so detailed. It is really cute. I think that's looking pretty good. Maybe just a bit more here. And some of the detail pieces will cover these, but we'll go ahead and ink it up just in case. And then let me bring in my all-purpose mat so I can add inking to the detail bits as well. I apologize if I'm kind of down towards the bottom. Hopefully you can see this. There's a handle, the bottom of the bag, and then the straps that go up. So we will add some inking to all of these pieces as well. So everything kind of has that same weathered look and looks cohesive. A little side tip for this note bag, if you are using pattern paper like I did here, you want to make sure that the pattern is a smaller scale so that you can take in more of the details and it'll kind of show what the pattern is. If it's a great big pattern and you use a small die like this, sometimes the pattern gets kind of lost because you're not seeing enough of it. So I do recommend using a smaller scale pattern. So we've got all these inked up. We can go ahead and adhere them down. I did cut the handle and the straps all from crumb cake cardstock and then inked them up in the pecan pie. So I am going to use liquid glue, and I recommend using liquid glue so that you can wiggle it around just in case you don't get it in the right place or right where you want it. And you don't need to go crazy, just a few drops. And I'm lining them up with the handle. So I have the handle just above it so I can see where that's going to hit. And then we'll just add a dollop of glue on the base of the handle, right like that. And then you have the bottom piece. So what I'm going to do, now you could cut off all those side flaps if you don't want any dimension on your layout, but I do think it's quite cute. So I'm going to actually adhere them down with those so it's kind of like a pocket on my layout. There's just a few more details. I've got this tiny little triangle. There is a die where you could put a pocket on the front, but I'm just using this little detail here to add a decorative element. This is the pickup tool, great for little pieces like this with its sticky putty tip. And there. How cute is that? Let's bring this down and see how it looks on the layout. I also cut those wooden planks using this die here from the Country Woods wood grain paper. And what I'm envisioning, so this is the crossbeam, it's a little bit skinnier, and then all of your pickets would adhere to that piece. You could cut two of those and run one across the bottom if you wanted an upper and a lower rail, but this is going to be covered, so I think we just need the upper. I purposely want them to look weathered and worn, so I'm making them uneven, kind of following along, framing in the photo there. And I think we need some sand on the bottom, so I'm tearing some crumb cake cardstock. I feel like that is just kind of floating, and I want to ground it to the layout. So using a little torn paper here gives it more of that beach sand look. And yeah, I think that's going to be good. Let's push this back up out of the way and bring in my all-purpose mat. You just need a wipeable surface. If you have a glass mat, that works great as well. And I'm using my blending brush to add some sand-like coloring and detail to this. If I were just using the tote bag, I could have lifted that up higher and it would have been grounded to the photos. But since I have the fence post, I feel like they need to originate from something. So this will be a good solution. Now, to add even more detail to this sand, once I've got it all inked up, from the stamp set here, Seaside Wishes, there is a little scatter splatter stamp. These work great for sand, just textural details. You can use them for snow. Any, little background stamp like this is worth its weight in gold. So I'm doing first, second, and third generation stamping to get a variance of colors. And then let's see how this looks here. Moment of truth. And I think that's going to be cute. I'm going to tuck it underneath my peach paper and then I'll cut it flush with the right hand side. But let's see. Yeah, I love it. Let's see how this looks matted on a piece of petal pink cardstock. I like that little pop of color. I'll go ahead and do it to the right side as well. And then I have all of the fun bits and pieces. So we have the sunglasses, a sea star, a shell, and the sunscreen bottle. So how I made that is with the die from Notes and Totes. Where is it? Oh, this one right here. I cut it from white paper. And then I used the little sun here to stamp off the edge. And then I used the Misty Moonlight marker to color the cap of the sunscreen. So let's go ahead and create a little cluster down here. These will look like they're hanging from the tote and the water bottle goes in the bag. Now, I went through my stash and I have a whole bunch of sand dollars from Seaside Wishes. This little coral piece and the crabs are from the Ocean Friends. These are all left over from other projects. So you'll see these are just embossed and die cut. You can see that beautiful detail. And then this is the Ocean Friends. And then this is Seaside Wishes. I chose the two sand dollars that were stamped, embossed, and die cut. I think they stand out a little bit better and it looks great with the sand on the bottom. So let's see if we put an embellishment cluster here. I'm thinking I need more sand here to carry that across. So I went ahead and created another little piece. And yeah, that finishes that off nicely, don't you think? Let's kind of bring this down just a bit. The crab, maybe we can, I got an awkward spot there. Let's hide that with the shell. And then I want a little interest maybe up here. We can kind of tuck this little coral piece out sideways. Here comes Mr. David, wants to come in and say hello. Hi, Dave. Everybody else's cats sit nicely around their layouts. Mine always wants to sit on the layout. All right, let me scooch him out of the way. I don't think David's given up. He's coming back. He's decided now's the time. Mom, pet me now. Sometimes you just have to give in and hold him. He likes to be held and scratched. He's kind of ridiculous. And are you going to look at the camera? Is it going to focus? He says, hello. I've gone ahead and added a little twine to the tops of my tags. And then this is the keeping tabs punch. And this is great for just little detail elements, adding the date. I think I am going to add the date. I wanted a little something else to this cluster over here. We only had the two elements and I felt like it needed one more. So that looks good. And then I also want some wordy bits. So I've got Misty Moonlight ink here. And then this, nope, not that one. This is called Beach Day Scrapbook and it says Beach Day. I thought that would be a fun little sentiment. It's always nice to add some type of text element to your embellishment clusters. It can really finish it off nicely. So I am stamping that. That did not turn out. Let's try that one more time. Flip the paper over, try it again, and hope for the best. Yep, that looks much better, much crisper. I can't cut a straight line to save my life, so I'm going to use my little guillotine trimmer to trim this down. And I want a tighter margin on the top, and then we'll cut the bottom. And Let's see here. Do I want this all as one? I might be able to cut those into two pieces. Let's see how it looks on the layout here. I'm thinking right down here, kind of frame it in the corner of that photo. That works, but let's see what it looks like if we cut it into two pieces and stagger it. If I don't like it, I can always cut another one and put it back. So let's see here. That's cute. Either way, looks good. I think I'm going to go with this one. And of course, we need a little bling. These are the 2025-2027 in color flat pearls. I am going to use the Secret C. There's three different sizes, so I try to kind of create a triangular formation around my clusters. We'll add one up here, and then I'll add some around the tote bag as well. So this is Secret C, Cloud Cover, Timid Tiger, Darling Duckling, and Strawberry Slush. So pretty. I am going to add more photos via flip flaps, and I'll show you how I do that in just a moment. And then I have a few more layout examples I want to bring in just for more ideas for your travel layouts. But isn't that the cutest? I just want to hold this up so you can see all of those details with the stamping and then how perfect the little Country Woods wood grain paper is for that picket fence. I absolutely love how that turned out. So for my photos, I have these 3x4s. So I've got 3x4 flip flaps. They come in either portrait or landscape. I do prefer to attach mine at the top. So you could technically add a 3x4 landscape photo and have it open this way like a book, but I just personal preference, I like to hang them from the top. When you're turning the pages in your album, I feel that they just work a little bit better. Again, you can do it either way, there's no right or wrong. So I've already put a couple photos in here, and you want to make sure if you are adhering it where it flips up, that the photo on the inside is upside down when you're putting them together. I do glue my two photos together. I tape them together so they're not moving around in there. So we've got a picture of Katie, just like Julie's here. So I thought I'd pair those together. I've got Janice and Jema, and I wanted more landscape shots of the ocean on the front. So that one will sit there. And then you can see Katie and Julie on the inside. And then for this one, I just lightly tack this down. So I think I want the CDT photo on the inside of the flip flap. So I only put adhesive in the middle, but it is really strong. So this one is going to sit here. And then I had these two photos of Katie and I, and they're taken randomly, but I put them together in my Print to Size app because we're looking in the tide pools, taking pictures, and I thought it was a funny set of photos to put together. So that will sit on the inside. This one will be on the outside. Again, I flipped that upside down. So these will go together in the flip flap. And then when you flip that up, it'll be the correct orientation. So we will put these, and then I'm going to show you how I trim the flap down. Some people prefer to add the flip flaps directly to the layout and then cut the page protector. You can totally do it that way. I find it very easy just to stick them on top. And let me show you how I trim this down. Sorry about that. I had a little microphone malfunction. So you will see here, this is the part you peel away, this white part. There is a little bit of page protector that doesn't have adhesive along the edge here, maybe 1/8 of an inch. So you can cut that off. You don't have to. It's a tiny little detail. I like to, and it's just less to overlap your photo that's underneath. So you definitely want to use a guillotine trimmer for this, and then just give it a nice clean edge. And it's, again, I lined it up right at the adhesive. So yeah, just about 1/8 of an inch there. And now if you were attaching it directly to your layout, the flap would go behind. But because I'm attaching it to the page protector, it goes over my photo. So that's less of that area to overlap the picture. Now, it's not very obvious either way. So just a little step you can skip if you want to. So what I'm going to do is tuck this into the page protector, and this is probably the biggest tip. Make sure it is all the way down inside of the page protector to the bottom. If it moves around a lot and you go to add your flip flaps later, it might have bumped up and then it won't be lined up. So just take a moment, tuck it all the way to the bottom, and that way you know your flip flaps will be adhered in the right place. And let's go ahead and I'm going to do this one, the one that I cut. So you want to make sure, see how it's a little bit shorter? Make sure your hands are clean so you don't get any dust sticking to the adhesive. And then let me bring this down again, making sure it's in the bottom. It's you want to avoid touching the adhesive, but sometimes it's a little tricky. So again, I just recommend clean, dry hands and then fold this over. It's going to sit right over the photo beneath it. So what I like to do is get just a little pull tab, just start that and kind of fold it up so you have something to grab onto. And then we're just adhering the one corner, and then you can line up the other side all the way across. And once that looks good, you can pull the little adhesive strip to get the rest of it adhered down. Oops, I bumped that just a bit. So again, this is much easier if you're not trying to be mindful of not putting your head in the camera, but we'll go ahead and peel that out slowly. This is very strong. So once it's down, and that's what you want. You don't want these coming off. So then you can just lift it up and really burnish that in with your finger and it virtually disappears. So again, you can see where that would be overlapping the photo underneath just a bit, but less that we trimmed it. And yeah, absolutely love it. These things are a craft room staple. When you have a lot of photos, flip flops are my favorite solution. And again, you can cut the page protector and tuck it in, or you can just adhere it to the outside. And it's so fun to have interactive elements. Now, I won't make you watch this one. I'll do that one off camera, but basically it's going to sit right there on the top photo. Before we look at those layouts, let's hop on over to Canva. Here we are in my Canva account. I am going to select this option right here that says Photo Editor. Go ahead and click on that, and then it's going to pull up a bunch of photos that I've been recently working on. I use Canva to watermark my artwork, so that's why you're seeing those there. But what we want to click on here is Custom Size, and I'm going to change this to inches, and we want this to be a 4 by 6. And it gives you some, things that you can use. I'm just going to click recipe card because it really doesn't matter. We just want the size. And now we've got a nice blank canvas. So we want to upload our photo that we're going to add the text. So I'm clicking on uploads over here and you can see all of my photos. Now I had already had this one uploaded, so I'm going to scroll until I find it. In order to upload photos, I'm a Mac user. I can drag a photo right off my desktop and drop it into Canva. Super easy. If you're on your phone, you would just click upload from device, from camera roll, and pick your photo that way. So you can see we have our photo dropped onto the canvas. I, of course, want this much bigger. Now, when we drag it up to the corner, it gives us a little warning that says danger zone. And a lot of printers will do this. You will lose quality around the edges, and they're just warning you of that. So if you want it to go all the way to the edge and have a borderless photo, you absolutely can. I love a good white border on mine, so I am going to leave it and stay within the parameter it suggests. Now you can see we've got this space down at the bottom. And that's because the format of the iPhone takes photos in a 4:5 ratio. So we are just simply going to drag this to the bottom. It does zoom in just a little bit, so you can move this around if you want to make sure we're not cutting. I don't want Chelsea cut off, so I'm going to bump her over just a bit. So we have our photo positioned how we like it. Now we want to add text to this open canvas of beautiful blue sky. So over on the left, this is kind of our control panel. I am going to click on text. Now it gives you some options, heading, subheading, body. You can always change the size afterwards. So let's just go ahead and click body, and it drops in a text box for us. Now I am going to, let's close this. I'm going to see these little crosshair arrows here. If you click on that, you can easily move your text anywhere on the canvas. So let's go ahead, and I have already, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so we can drag it so it spans across. And then what I want to do is I've already typed up in a Word document my journaling and copied and pasted. So I'm going to just add it right to my uh, text box here that I've created by copy paste or command paste. So it's black right now and I want it to be white. So we'll just, you could go with the black text. You could choose any color text you would like, but I'm going to select it all. And I want to go right up here to the text color, click on that, and then it gives you all sorts of different color options, or you can create your own, adding in a hex code. I'm just simply clicking white. Oops, I didn't have the word tide highlighted. So now it's in white. I don't like that this is going over Chelsea's face, and I don't like that it's centered. So what I want to do here is up here under alignment, we have a toolbar up here. You could change the font size, the color. You can change the, italics, underline it, whatever you want to do. I want this to be justified to the left. So I have clicked that. And now we need to change the size. So you can also stretch your text box to make it, if you want it a little bit wider, you want it to go higher. You can do that just by bumping it up. Let's drag this so it's uniform. And then I think that's looking pretty good. And now we're not covering Chelsea's face. And then you can also just change it. It's on a size 12. You could make it smaller if you wanted to. So that is how you would add text. Very simple process. You could do this for a title also. Chelsea has shared a tutorial on her channel how she's added a title to this. Just very similar way of adding the text. Now, if you want to download this, you simply go over to share over here on the right, click share, and then it gives you options. You can share it. You can, send it to people. We are going to click download right here on the left. Click download. And now it gives you file types. JPEG or a PNG is what you would use for an image. There's other options here for different purposes. But for images, I always use a PNG. That's best for complex images and illustrations. JPEG is going to be a little bit smaller file, but since we're printing, we really want the best quality possible. So you just simply will download this as a PNG. I'm going to download it to my computer. And then let's go ahead and open this. And I'm going to show you how it has that perfect white border. I know so many of you ask, how do we get those white borders? And of course, my computer is going to be slow. Okay, there is our picture ready to go. So this is a print preview. You can see that white border, which you saw it on my layout. So you can see how that turns out. I'm happy with the text. Make sure this is your last chance to make sure you don't have any typos or misspelled words or anything like that. And then you would just simply print it. So I'm going to go to File, and then I'm going to Print. And then I'm going to send this right over to my Epson PictureMate 400. And its paper size is set to 8.5 by 11. I'm going to set it to a 4 by 6. And then you can change the quality if you want. Every printer format's a little bit different. So here, I'm just leaving it on auto. My printer knows what type of paper it is, so I don't need to worry about that. And quality, I always would put best quality. And I'm not going to print this because I already did, but then you would just print and it will print out with your story beautifully recorded on your photo. Okay, let's head on over and check out those other layout examples. This is actually another creative design team girls trip as well. It was the previous year where we went to Vancouver, and in these photos we're hiking in Lynn Canyon Park. It was so beautiful. So earlier I mentioned I always try to take pictures of the sign. Here we are posing on either side of it. Now this is a 3x4. So sometimes if you make these photos larger, it can actually act as the title on your scrapbook layout. So that, makes it very useful just to have your photo be your title. But what I want to show you is this block of photos here. Now, this layout design, this is actually a creative design team sketch, but this is designed for a 4x6 portrait style photo. I simply use that to create a collage and add in all of those little detail shots. So, since we're hiking, these are nature close ups. We've got a flower, a slug, some mushrooms, this really cool fern kind of uncurling, these painted hearts and or rocks in the shape of a heart. And then somebody took a picture of me taking a picture of the moss. So I added that one in there. But a great way to capture the details to really document the whole, what it was like to be on this hike. So that I did in the Printisize app, which is iPhone compatible only, but you can very easily make photo collages like this in Canva with the free version. So I just wanted to point that out. This is also a 4x6 here where I've just added two 3x4 photos in that space to alter the sketch. These are 1.7 is what I've sized those at in the Printisize app. If they were 2x2, you wouldn't have any of the white border separating them. So, again, just something I have done. And I do have a video showing on a different layout how I create a collage. I will leave that listed in the description box below. Detail photos don't always have to be small. I apologize for the glare. I've got a large page protector here, so this is in my album. We were having high tea at the Empress, so you can see I very, intentionally have paired group photos with some close-up shots of our delicious dessert with the teacups in the background. But what I wanted to point out is here, I have a set of photos that I have purposely paired together because I love just the contrast. We have the large, shot of the whole outside of the Empress there, and then a very close-up shot of this delicious little goodie. And Katie took this photo. She's got such a great eye for capturing the details. But mixing photos like this, it makes for a very interesting layout and great combination to really capture those details. And again, they don't have to be small photos. You can make those detail shots large. Just want to, as somebody's going to ask, so I thought I would beat you to it. This is a 8x12 flip flap that was sold by Close to My Heart. So unfortunately, Stampin' Up! Does not offer this size yet. Maybe they will in the future, but great way to create interactive layouts there. But absolutely love these two photos together. So something to be mindful of while you're traveling and taking pictures, as well as when it comes to documenting the story. I selected this layout to share because it's a great representation of different style of photos. We've got posed photos with scenery photos mixed with candid photos and detail photos. So they all work together to really capture what this experience was like. And some days I'm really on my game and I remember to take all those photos, and other days not so much. And that's when I'm thankful for the shared photo album, because where maybe I dropped the ball, my friend or whoever else I was traveling with got some photos that I can use to document the moment. But here we're wine tasting in Siena while traveling through Italy. So what's not to love, right? But here I have made two larger photos. I have what the winery looked like. So I took a scenery shot of the building there and the beautiful blue sky. And then I've paired that with a close up posed photo of my friend Bonnie and I. Obviously we're holding wine and you can see the wine behind us. So it really kind of tells you right away what's going on in this layout. It's kind of like telling a story through the photos. Here are some posed pictures. There's Bonnie, and then inside with this beautiful piece of furniture, and then outside of the winery. I've got some candid shots while on the tour, and then some detail shots. So there's all of the wine barrels stacked up there. And then this dog was so sweet. She lived at the winery and she kind of hung out with us and really made the whole experience that much better, right? I mean, you're sipping wine in Italy and you've got a sweet dog asking to be pet. I mean, what can be better, right? So, again, detail shots, posed shots, scenery, and some candid shots all working together. And looking at this layout takes me right back to this memory very vividly, which is what we want our scrapbook layouts to do. Maybe you've come back from a recent vacation or you've got one in the works coming up that you're looking forward to. I'd love to hear about your vacation travel adventures this summer. And I hope these tips were helpful for you and you enjoyed this layout design. Everything I've used is in the description box below. And if you're looking for more travel inspiration, check out these videos right here.